Hello everyone, I'm Mansvini Kaushik, and today we are going to talk about everything art. Art investment is a big market. The global art market was valued at 47 lakh crore rupees in 2024 and is expected to grow to 50 lakh crore in 2025 to 89 lakh crore by 2033. In FY 2023, the Indian art market had recorded a turnover of around 1,247 crore rupees. We'll explore how the entire landscape works, who should consider it, and why is it more than just luxury. But first, let's take a step back in time to understand how art became a financial asset. From the Medici family commissioning Renaissance masterpiece to today's billion-dollar auction houses, art has always been more than just aesthetics. It's been a symbol of power, culture, and increasingly a store of value. So, how do you navigate this space? And is this the right choice for you? Joining us today is Ayesha Parikh, the founder of Art in Charlie, which is a gallery in Mumbai, to shed a light on how one can make art a legitimate part of their investment portfolio. Art in Charlie has also been recognized by Art Mumbai, which is one of the biggest art fairs in India, as one of the top emerging galleries in the country, very recently in November 2024. Thank you so much, Ayesha, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I would love to start by knowing how you got intrigued by art and how you ventured into this space, and how did you start Art in Charlie?
I did the usual path. I'm a CA. I qualified in England with KPMG. Then I joined consulting with McKinsey. Somewhere along the way, this is 10 years after graduating, and I just wasn't happy. It wasn't something that was speaking to me. And on the side, this interest for art only kept growing. Then I started traveling all across the world with McKinsey, and my weekends would be again, going to Melbourne and having, or Tasmania, actually, Hobart, and going to the Mona Museum there. Like every corner of the world, this is what I wanted to do for my weekends. And somebody at the firm, actually, at McKinsey, actually told me the concept of Ikigai, and that's how it all happened.
Right. So could you help us understand what exactly is the art investment landscape and how does it work?
So let's go with the basics first. The art market is primarily split into two parts. One is the primary market and the secondary market. The secondary market has more data around it because that's where the auction houses come in. The primary market, it is the gallery side of things where, just when an artist is sort of finding their feet, some gallery will sort of pick them up and say, let me do an exhibition for you and so on. And, this is the first sale through a gallery that the artist does, which is why it's called primary market. Auction houses is once the collectors have bought it already for multiple years, then at a later stage in an artist's life, some collectors will want to sell it and make a profit, finally realize the kind of gains that notionally the asset would have picked up, the artwork would have picked up. And that's the auction house. So that's more collector to collector, dealer to dealer, whereas the primary market is more direct artist, gallery, collector, the first sale.
Got it.
That's how it's usually done. So there are different ways. One is, like any other industry, art trade fair is the art fairs. Right. So that's where you get a collection of like 50 galleries, 100 galleries sort of there together. And that's where the art fair as a aggregator platform will get collectors to come, and then you find new galleries, you sort of see what you like. Each gallery has their own aesthetic, the kind of work that they do. And so a lot of the times the collectors build loyalties with these galleries and build faith and loyalties. And most collectors will have 2 or 3 galleries that they love and they keep track of. Each gallery has a regular program of exhibitions in the year. Could be anything from 6 to 10 exhibitions or more. Those specific collectors that love that gallery will keep a lookout on all the exhibitions that they're doing, what artists are coming in, and that's how you keep track of what's happening in galleries.
So how has the landscape evolved over the years? How were art investments considered, let's say, 20 years ago to what it is now?
So here, I'd like to cite like the history of art investments more from the US point of view, because you have to understand that in the larger global market, the numbers that you spoke of, right, 47 lakh crore and so on, we, as in India, we are less than 1%, probably less than 0.01% of the total global market. 1/3 is controlled by the US, 1/3 by the UK, and 1/3 by China. In 1904, there was somebody called Andre Lavelle, who started the first art fund, right? He said, listen, I'm going to buy a lot of avant-garde art. And then he sold it at the auction house and made like a 25% profit. And it was an aha moment for the world.
Okay.
So that's how it kind of started. Then it kind of like died down. People, sort of auction markets were happening, but it was still not very organized. In the 1970s, then Sotheby's came and put up a art fund. Sotheby's was always like, it was around, but they started an art fund. There was this almost like setting up of art as an investment class that people were considering. That was the first kind of, in any real way, that was happening. But soon that didn't work out. The market for art is very illiquid. So the issue is that as an investment, you have to be able to hold art for like 10 to 30 years minimum to be able to find that kind of an investment case for it. So with the auction market, you can you have the big names and the blue chip artists. Like in India, you'll have M.F. Hussain, Raza, and so on. They keep coming on the auction market, and that's fine. But most other artists, you don't see them that often. You don't see emerging artists there. So it becomes difficult for a dealer or a collector or somebody to just for most other artists to say, today I want to sell it, and I want to see what I can get. You have to go out and find the right buyer, and so it's illiquid, right? And for art funds, that's really important. You have like you have taken all this money from other people and from your investors, and you're telling them every for 3 to 10 years you've put in money in the fund, and I will give an exit when I need to give an exit. It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
So these funds kind of didn't work. In the 2000s, again, there was a resurgence of art funds. Again, people said, maybe we'll try it again. And there were two really big. I think it was called the Fine Art Fund and Art West Partners, I think, in the US. Again, for similar reasons, it did not pan out. There is now a very different model that's out there. That's maybe like, again, we'll have to see whether that works or not. There's something called Masterworks in the US where they with these sort of masters, they collect masters. You can put in money. The fund itself collects these masters. You as an investor put in money and get a share of a unit.
Okay.
Right. So it's more accessible to anybody, can sort of buy as many units as you can afford.
Right.
And then it gives you the ability to have a secondary market to sell your share of like your unit.
Okay.
Right. But again, it's a very recent thing. This was in 2017 that they started. So it's yet to be seen on how well this sort of operates and does. That being said, there are the reason why people are really excited about art is because there are phenomenal numbers that people have achieved in terms of investing when they've invested well.
Got it.
Right. Okay. So there will be a lot of cautionary tales. There is risk involved. You really need to do what you're doing. But all is not lost. Art can get you good returns,
Okay. Do Indian HNIs prefer investing in art or buying the art for themselves?
So art is, it is in a very key way, very different to any traditional asset class. And that is because it has emotional and cultural value that it gives you.
Right.
Any regular buyer of art will never invest in art purely for investment.
Okay.
That just doesn't happen because every time they have a different party coming, a guest party coming at home, they change their art on the walls because they have a storage of like a warehouse. And, even for themselves, like if I'm tired of seeing some art, or I've bought some new pieces that I really want to live with, I will change. I will regularly change works on the wall. So there is this different kind of addiction to living with a piece of culture like that.
Okay.
So that makes it very different. But at the same time, it's not like they will buy just anything and not think about investment as well. So it's a little bit of a play off of both things.
Right.
With the aspirational class that's building up now, GDP growth and so on, the upper middle class is growing in the country, and after you have the best car, you have you have all of that. What's the next bit that you want to get? It's culture, piece of culture, right? That's the next stage of growth, and there I think collectors start with saying, okay, the thing you've done before is you have you have a really nice house, you've got a really nice like sofa and your choice of curtains, etc. The first mistake that first buyers usually make with art is thinking of it as in the same way as furniture, as decor.
Oh, okay.
Right. But soon after you buy your first or second work, you start realizing what a different experience it is to live with art. Right. And your nazariya has to be very different when you look at it. And so with collectors as well, it's never like, it's a journey. Your eye sees more. You sort of your understanding of art, your understanding of artists develops. And most collectors will tell you what they collected like 3 years ago. They've now they've sort of some of it they don't even like anymore.
Can we say that it could help build someone their wealth, or is art sort of considered as a side investment? Could it be something that could be like a main source of investment in the sense that it builds wealth? Is that something that could happen?
So now let me break it down into the real case for buying art. Definitely, first there is capital appreciation that if you if you choose well, to the point where in the US market again, after like 1995 to 2023, S&P 500 was growing at like a 9% annual return you were getting, whereas with contemporary art market it was 14%. So it is possible to make more money than definitely the index and other things, right?
Okay.
So capital appreciation is there, number one. Number two is it does not necessarily get affected, or not to the same extent as business cycles. So in a recession, you will often see numbers like during COVID times, we had like crazy numbers of auction prices for art. We had during recession of 2008, there were again crazy numbers in the auction market that were not related directly to the business fluctuations. Okay. And that's because this is unlike stocks, this is a tangible asset that holds value.
Okay.
Right. So if a Picasso or a Hussein or a Raza, these are great works of art that have seen the test of time and that hold historical relevance and significance that can't be erased. Right. So there is resilience for the market, which means it's a great way to diversify your portfolio.
And how do we arrive at the value of an art piece? Obviously, it's the artist's name once you reach up there. But, for someone who's just starting out, how should he, evaluate how much it's worth, a piece is worth?
As the primary market, I think galleries do a great job of making sure that there's a certain standard according to which the pricing is done. It's a factor of just being in the market, really close to the market, and how many exhibitions the artist has done, how many group exhibitions, solo exhibitions, how many curators have picked it up, independent curators have picked it up for their biennales, for it, that sort of thing. Has the artist been acquired by a museum, like institutional acquisition has happened or not? All these are different factors that determine the kind of pricing that the artist commands.
Okay.
There is also consistency of the artist, how like sort of there's a value to the creativity, the kind of step change every time that the artist does a solo. What is the step change in the work that they have shown, and therefore is that consistently are they producing consistently good work?
So, what kind of returns should an investor typically keep in mind while like a first-time investor who, let's say, does not know art market so much, but is someone who loves art and wants to consider it as an added to the portfolio? What should be the figure that someone should keep in mind while investing for the first time?
Start small and always start in a way that you love the work. But once you do get seasoned in this, there is money to be made. And it can be a great hedge against business cycles and recession and inflation and so on. So do consider it as part of your portfolio for sure.
Yeah. And how does art galleries, auctions, and private sale influence the art market? Is it like how the stock market is? Like everything is dependent on each other? Is it how it operates?
Absolutely. For example, artists don't like sending their work into, or rather seeing their work come up in auctions because it's not in their hands, because whoever bought their work in the primary market might want to sell and put it in the auction house. So the artist just one day gets told that, yeah, your work, like that work, remember, it's in the auction house. Now what happens is, if that work then does not reach the price that otherwise the artist is achieving in the market, then that decreases the entire market for the artist elsewhere as well, because that's now the new set price.
Okay.
So if it does badly in pricing or it doesn't get sold, that's a huge issue that immediately puts that artist market in a tizzy, and it's a very, very risky thing to do, to have artworks in the auction house, because it's anybody's guess on what will really happen. It's true open market kind of scenario when that happens. So everything is very, very related.
And do you feel Indian landscape is still very nascent? Or are we there at par with any of our global counterparts?
We're very nascent, in fact. The idea that people have of the Indian market is still of the Razas and the Hussains, which was back in the 1940s. These artists did some of their best work. South Asian art is seeing a moment.
Okay.
But it's very nascent currently, and I think on the other hand, if you see, there are so many new things happening in India suddenly. Like there's the Bengal Biennale. It's not just the Kochi Biennale. We have Bengal Biennale. We have new galleries like us that have sprouted up in the last few years. We have the Hampi Art Labs residency. There are so many new things coming up that's setting the stage. Even Art Mumbai is only 2 years old, and has shot up. All these things shows that everybody is within the art world is hoping or expecting a sort of step change, or we're at an inflection point. I hear people talking about this all the time as well, that we're at an inflection point for South Asian art on the global scene. And all I can say is fingers crossed, and let's wait and watch.
And do you think that it's a very private sort of a market? Do you think it's a market where everyone knows everyone? Like in terms of the galleries, in terms of the buyers, do you think it's a very close-knit market also because it hasn't penetrated as much to, let's say, smaller towns?
Yeah.
So do you observe that? Is that happening?
In the art world, which is the supply side, the artists, the galleries, I'm leaving collectors aside. Yes, it's a very small world currently. We all know each other. I think at least by name we would have So it is a very small market. There is this aspirational class that's growing. Like I mentioned, there's this huge section that is now growing. There are, I have friends who've recently done, exhibitions in Hyderabad and Ahmedabad. We did something big in Ahmedabad and were very surprised pleasantly on the kind of reception we got there on art. And there's Indore, a friend who recently did an exhibition in Indore, and we've seen collectors come out of all these places, and it's palpable. The excitement around this is palpable, and I hope it just continues and explodes more and more.
So what are your views on digital art and NFTs? Because like there is a exponential rise on everything digital. So what are your views? Do you think that is somehow going to affect how the art markets operates in the long term?
I don't think there is a correlation at all, to be honest, with the traditional art market with NFTs and digital art. Simply because what NFTs has done is they've brought in an entirely different market. Techies, developers, etc., who were traditionally left out of this buying market can suddenly sit there and buy art in a form that they understand.
Do you consider AI as a challenge? Do you consider, because it's so easy today to make art or painting, so to say. I don't know if we can label something that is created digitally as art through AI, but do artists fear how easy technology is making for everyone to access, paintings and like artwork?
I think the threat for AI is to mediocre artists or art as decor. If you say that I want something like Picasso and, make me something like Picasso, AI will be able to do it. Because by definition, AI goes back in time and sees everything that is made or sees the prompts that you've given. It can only replicate or do it in the style of somebody that has already existed. Real art that has real value can only be created by humans because it is meant to be a step change. So
right.
It is meant to be a different perspective that has not existed before. It's meant to be a different work that has never existed before. It's only going to make the quality of the art market better is how I see it. You can use it as a tool to sort of place your ideas, etc. But it will only make the market crisper.
Okay. And what advice or tips you have for young artists who want to explore and make, enter the art market and make it big eventually? What advice do you have?
Initially, till a gallery picks up your work and starts putting their machinery behind you, you can't just be the artist, unfortunately. You have to market yourself.
Right.
You have to be on Instagram or whatever the social media app of the times is. You have to put your work out there. You have to network, go to Art Night Thursdays, go to all the art fairs, see what's out there, see how you are giving a different perspective that doesn't already exist. Why should a gallery invest in you? Make a case for yourself by doing the hard work there as well, is number one. Number two is don't shy away joining a gallery. I think a lot of artists get very scared with contracts and things like that on then I have to only work with a gallery of this one gallery. I want to work with all galleries. While that sounds very romantic, the issue is that if you're trying to work with all galleries, no gallery is really backing you. They are happy to do a show and it's a transactional thing. But if a gallery is saying, I believe in you and therefore I want to represent you, they're saying, I want to put my might behind you. I want to put my resources behind your career. I want to put my, my connections behind you. And rule of law is that sure, you can do your own marketing, but you will only go so far. The gallery is able to bring a far bigger depth of connections and might that you, as a single artist, it's very rare that you will be able to achieve on your own. It's like saying, somebody Somebody told me this in the finance world. Actually, I was talking to a friend who saying, I don't want an outside investor because currently I'm okay. I'm self funding it, and currently I'm fine with my funds. And my idea was that, you only go out in the market and get an investor when you need funds.
Right.
But he said, don't think about it that way, because the connections that an outside investor will bring you and the kind of a whole world that they can open up, that's of value. And you don't understand that, you don't realize that. And that's the same thing with artists.
Understood.
It's about getting exponential growth in a smaller amount of time.
Understood. And so I want to understand also how does a business model for a gallery works? Well, how do you kind of rate artists? How do you connect to buyers? What's the business model?
Simple business rules. There's you source your artists from various hubs. You're always in the market looking at other group shows, what other independent curators that you like are doing, what new artists they're bringing. You're looking at some top schools and saying, here's let me go to their annual show, let me find out what they're doing, what good artists are popping up. Then you're keeping in touch with them, you're seeing how they're growing and so on. Rest of what is coming out of residencies, certain grants that are jury selected in the country that do an open call. You're saying who's getting selected. So there's this whole sourcing that you do with artists. You give them a chance. You give them space and platform their work in exhibitions. And in exhibitions, what you sell, there's a commission that you get and the artist gets. So sell and buy. Well, you're not buying. It's the model is that you are, sort of partnering with the artists to give them space. And then if it sells, then both you eat and the artist eats. It's a hard market because, people don't realize it. Artists definitely don't realize it, that it's not simple to give space and platform them, because the gallery comes with massive amounts of costs. You have real estate in Bombay in prime locations, which is its own thing. Right. You have your own salary structure, you have your own marketing structure and PR, etc., everything that you're doing. And you are risking your expenses for the month on this artist. Right. While the artist is taking up risking the production costs that they do in making the art, that's their risk. And so you're kind of like coming together, the artist and the gallery, to then present it to the world and to the market. Collectors wise, it's the usual, like I said, it's like, think of art fairs as like trade fairs, right? Like you go there and suddenly you're people, like it's a aggregator that brings you all these people who might be interested in your art. Right. So honestly, I cannot stress this enough. It's people think that the art market must be so. How do you even how does it work? And it seems like this black hole of information or something, but it's exactly like any other business. It's basic economic rules on how it works. Just the words are different.
Okay. And would you say that, the younger generation are getting more drawn to art?
Yeah.
Or it is the older generation? Who would you say, if we have to put it in?
No, absolutely the younger generation. And the kind of art the younger generation's liking is very different to the older generation as well.
Okay.
You see a lot more understanding of contemporary art, because it speaks to you more because it's relevant to your times. I wasn't born in the time when Raza was doing his best work or Hussain was doing his best work. So I don't know. It doesn't speak to me as much as an artist of today speaks to me, because that's relevant to my times. I understand that. I relate to that directly. UAF, a Mumbai Urban Art Festival. You have Start India, which is doing the Lodi Art District, etc., and so on. So many different things are happening where the young people, like even at my gallery, there are so many young people coming in every week and getting interested, and therefore you assume that if these are 20-something-year-olds, 25-year-olds, then 10 years later, 35, and they really have income to spend, that they will start buying more. And that will just reinforce the market, reinforce the artistic world in different ways.
Great, Ayesha. This has been such an insightful, and I definitely learned a lot about art. I'm still someone who's pretty new to this industry, but it was a really, really interesting conversation. For everyone tuning in, thank you so much for being part of this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did and learned something new today. We'll keep bringing you such insightful conversations from across industries from India's developing luxury landscape. Stay tuned, and thank you so much.